Welcome back to the Tech and Real Estate Podcast. I'm thrilled to announce Bernadeau, an investor with a passion for multifamily projects and building community. From scaling up his portfolio to organizing real estate meetups in Orlando, he is focused on long-term wealth and growing his network. We'll hear his insights on investing in multifamily and creating value through community. Let's get started. Hey, Bernadeau, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, super exciting because we've synced a couple of months back in person for an Orlando meetup that you host. And you had such great experience to share as well for that moment that we met about your background and how you got into real estate. So let's actually start off with that. Let's hear a little bit about maybe what you were doing before real estate and how you shifted into it.
Yeah, of course. So I went the route of college, got my degree back in 2013. I thought I had made it. I was excited to get my first job. So I moved out to Oklahoma, of all places. Started working, right? And so when I got there, I realized, man, this is not what I had in my head as far as my vision when I got there, being in the cubicle. And so, but I still stuck with it. I went and got a brand new car. I was like on a high. And then the best thing happened to me about a year later. I got into a car accident. And so that kind of woke me up, so to speak. And so I realized I had this dream and passion of mine in college to pursue real estate, but I never did. I never really pursued it because of fear, because of, the thought that I need to have a lot of money, right? And so I then just dove into books, podcasts, meetups, and really just went into like a rabbit hole of real estate. And so that drove me to start a meetup here in Orlando area. And about a year or so later, I got my first deal under my belt, and I just kept going ever since to acquire more and more every year. So, yeah.
Excellent. So you came out of college, you get the job where it's now you're making money and you're thinking, I could do this for the next 10, 20, 30 years of my life. I can buy things. It's great.
Right.
But then you have a moment in time where it was a life event and you realize my time can be short and I want to be able to maximize it. Why?
Correct. Yeah. Because the issue was in the car was mostly how I got it. I was struggling to, pay rent. I had the high car note. I was barely making money, so to speak. It was like an entry salary. So I was struggling, but then I had this image of got a new Camaro. I looked the part, but really I was not doing my part. And so I realized there was another way to achieve the same goal that I had that was more sound, right? It took longer. It's a longer play, but I wasn't not going to be struggling to have this paycheck fit all those bills, right? And so I made that switch, made that change, got my first deal, cash flowed about $550, not a whole lot, but then with like a high, I'm like, oh wow. So I'm making this money every month, but I'm not having to clock in for it. So if I do more of this stuff, I can achieve my paycheck and, be comfortable in life, right? And so I just kept going deeper into it over time. So
Let's talk about a little bit before you get to this deal. So real estate has a bunch of different areas where you can become an agent, a wholesaler, an investor. So what led you specifically to investor, and how did you get the confidence to start looking for your first deal?
it's a good question. So everyone that I've spoken to and I met before I got into my first deal always said, man, I wish I never sold this. I wish I never sold that. Or I bought this and now I sold it and now it's worth this much. Like, why did I do that? And so I'm like, you know what? What if I invested in real estate and I just never sold anything? I just held on to it for a long time because everyone I've met has a regret of selling, a deal. And I realized the other avenues, wholesaling is a job because I got to keep doing it over and over again to make money. Flipping is a job. I got to keep flipping to make money. And so I'm like, I need it to be to where I can do some work up front, but then it kind of just tailors off and I can just ride and be comfortable. And that was buy and hold. I can buy a property, fix it up, do some work up front and then really just maintain the property over time. It goes up in equity. My cash flow is going to go up, but I have a fixed debt on the property, right? So, I just did that. It's boring. Just a regular rental, long-term leases, nothing fancy, no Airbnb, nothing, no pass split. I'm just buying a regular property, getting a regular lease, a tenant, and then I just maintain it. And so that over time, I can build on that. I can tap into that one property to buy more and more. And I've held on to them. And so now my wealth has gone up because now I'm not selling these things after a year or 2 years, right?
Right. You're thinking long term. And like you said, building up appreciation, naturally rents rising, cash flow going up. So for that first deal, how did you actually find this deal? Where was it located? And maybe give us a little bit of context. Was it a single family home, multifamily?
This deal came from, so as I mentioned before, I went into a rabbit hole of real estate. And then I said, you know what? Let me start a meetup. Like, why not? Mind you, I didn't know anything about real estate, right? So I went on Bigger Pockets and I made a post. I'm like, hey guys, if you are in the Orlando area, you want to meet up and talk real estate, let me know. I don't know why I did that because next thing I knew, I was getting emails, texts like, hey, like, when is this happening? Like, what? Yeah, of course. That'd be amazing. I'm like, oh, shoot, I got to find a place for this. This is like going to happen. So went to a Denny's or IHOP and people showed up and we were just talking. And mind you, I'm the host and I know nothing about this stuff. They're talking about burn method and wholesaling, cap price. I'm like, oh my goodness, like what is happening? So I'm taking notes under the table as I'm hosting this thing, right? And so over time, I met agents, I've met insurance agents, brokers, flippers, wholesalers, like the whole gamut, right? And so now I built that rapport. And so through that meetup, I met an agent in the area who sent me a deal in Palm Bay, Florida. And so small property, 3 bedroom, 1 bath, very small house, big backyard. And I bought it. It cash flowed, bought it for 120, I want to say. And rents were around 1,000 or so and have the same tenants from 2019 still living there. Rents have gone up now. It's worth like 185, 190. And so I just got on this high and just kept going, right?
Yeah, so it seems like you were very fearless. You started up a group, although you kind of didn't know maybe what you were planning to talk about, but you knew like if I can start to build a network of other folks who are seeking one, it could benefit them, but also me as well, and I can add value. So it's really excellent that you started to build up that network over time. And I know that you've actually gone away from IHOP, right? And now you have other facilities where you meet.
Right. Yeah. So I've now gone away from the IHOP and I've had a couple of folks who have sponsored it, some for free, some have paid to be able to just find a spot for us. Now we have a sponsor who brings us food, finds a place for us. And so just over time, people appreciate on the fact that there was no, sales pitch. There was no cost. It was just very like, hey, I know some things. I don't know everything, but let's just come here and just learn together. I'll find a speaker and we'll just learn. And so over time, people enjoy that family aspect of it. And so it just kind of grew. But as far as you saying I was fearless, I wasn't fearless. I was, showing up front, but really I was scared. So my first deal, I was like, man, this goes wrong. The house blows up. Cause on your first deal, all these thoughts in your head are happening, right? But you have to be able to overcome that and really say, you know what, I'm going to do this despite my concerns and my fears in my head. Because it's a natural fear of that. It might go wrong, right? But you have to take that first step. And having folks around me at the meetup assured me that, if they can do it, I can do it too, right? And so I had that support system to kind of help me through the first deal was very, very key.
Excellent. And you make a really good point where it's not about knowing everything that's going to happen. It's about having a network so that when these things do pop up, you know who to ask questions to right away. It could take you hours, days, scouring the internet for the answers. But if you just have someone in your network that you can call or text really quickly, it really helps with the learning. So I bet for yourself, you've learned a lot from your first deal and then you're like, this makes sense. I can continue this process. So how does it look for your next maybe couple deals? How do you finance them? And does your strategy stay the same in the same like area and type of property?
Yeah. So after my first deal, my second deal, was duplex. And how I got that one was through, I saved some money for my W-2. I also leveraged my 401k as well. And through that, I went and had enough money for a down payment to be able to just get a bank loan for my next deal. Now I didn't know about DSCR loans then. I wish I knew about that. So I had to put a little bit more down for that duplex, which is fine. Right. And so that's how I did it. And so I kept just saving all of the cash flows from the properties, some money from my W-2, right? And I just kept using that to be able to buy more and more over time.
Wow. So you didn't go out and just spend all the money on cash flow right away. Like you actually saved it to be able to finance your future deals.
Correct. Now, I already had some of money in my 401k from working from before that was just sitting there. So I leveraged that for my second deal as well. And from there, I just kept doing more, HELOCs, lines of credit as well on other deals to be able to fund more and more faster.
Got it. And we'll touch upon like HELOC, DSCR, what those are. But going back to these deals, so they're now, duplex was your second one. What gave you the confidence or the push to go from single family over to multifamily?
Yeah, so I realized if I wanted to be able to achieve my goal of, this income level with rentals, I need a lot of houses, and it'll take some time to get there. But if I could buy 2 or 4 at a time, I can cut down on that time, have more levers to pull, right? Maybe just, it's still one loan I'm putting down, on there, but I have 4 units now. So I have more levers to pull, fixed interest, and I can now have more income coming in. So it was more of a way to scale up the income, a little bit faster and still be able to acquire these deals, one at a time. So.
Yeah, great way to scale faster by going to multiple units. And also when you're fixing them up, I bet it's a little bit easier, one single roof. So actually, let's touch upon that a bit. You did mention fixing some properties. Was this earlier in those deals or was that later in your portfolio?
Yeah. So as far as the fixing, so my approach, I tend to acquire properties that are more so in the middle. So it doesn't need a full renovation. It's not vacant. Oftentimes it has people in there. But it's not top of the line, right? So it needs some work, but it can be done over time, right? And the people there usually are willing to stay at the property with a higher lease, right? So I tend to fix them over time as they get vacant. But oftentimes people just kind of stay and assume my new lease over time and just stay there, because I realize also, because I still manage my own properties, and a lot of these that I bought are from property managers who have them, and over time they just kind of are not maintained as well, right? Because a property manager has, let's say 20, 40 of them things to manage, and so they see you as a number. Whereas me, I take care of it like this is my property, so I'm gonna make sure everything is done correctly, done on time, that everything is done appropriately, so I don't cut corners on my deals, right? So it's been more so buying them as is, and over time I just fix them as needed.
Makes sense. So I would assume then that like where you're buying the rental comps in the area, that they're not all like luxury finishes. So that where the property stands when you acquire it, like it's still rentable. It's just not in like a luxury finish end.
Correct. Yeah. So it's all C classes. So all my properties are C class properties. So your folks who are working, plumbers, electrician, retail, good, solid properties are in good shape, kept well, but not like class A, over the top countertops, nice, because oftentimes these tenants, they can afford a higher rent at the top, right? And so they want to be able to have a safe place to be able to come home after work, a clean place that's well maintained, and that's what I provide for them.
Excellent. That's a huge key factor for people listening is when you're trying to understand, can I rent this as is? Will it still be, a great option for a tenant? Look at comparables. Don't just think of what you see on HGTV. You need to understand the local area and what suits it. So when you start to manage these properties on your own, I assume your team starts to expand of like who you network with, right? In terms of plumbers or people who are fixing roofs. So how do you start talking to contractors and bringing them into your circle?
Yeah. So everyone that I've met so far, as far as handyman and different trades, have been word of mouth, referrals, talking to people. Facebook groups is also a key of mine as well. I find a lot of people on Facebook groups. And so it's been more so talking to other investors and ask them, hey, who do you use for roofing, for plumbing, for an AC? Because I realized investors won't give you a person that was not good to them or did a bad job, right? So they will only tell you who they like, who did a great job, who was on time, who was fair in pricing. So I tend to kind of find who those are in different markets and I use them as well on my deals.
Yeah, I found that to be really great as well. Facebook groups is uh depending on where you live too, or where the area is that you're investing, they could be so rich with information. Just people sharing knowledge on different trades, even, down to like cleaners for a property too. And you can end up paying so much less than going to like these big box type of businesses that would charge a lot more. So with that, I would love to hear, now that you progress, you are starting to get more creative in how you're funding your next deals. What is the financing methods you do, and what are the deals that you end up closing on?
Yeah. So then since then I've stayed on that same track of buying small multifamily. I tend to love the 2 to 4 space. And so I've bought a few more duplexes, quads, just bought a 6 unit this year as well. And yeah, I've just been leveraging my current properties to acquire these guys, right? So I do HELOCs on them, to buy more, and then I pay up the HELOCs with, the cash flow, with other incomes as well that I have, right? I've built over time. And so then I can pay up the HELOC and use it over and over again to buy more. And so that's been the approach. It's not a popular approach. I'm not doing the BRRRR or the refis, right? I'm keeping that fixed debt, doing a HELOC to leverage more, pay out the HELOC, and then do it over time.
Excellent. And for those who don't know what a HELOC is, could you break that down in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, so HELOC is a home equity line of credit. So essentially, it's a credit card against your equity of the house. And so most banks will give you 70%, maybe 80%, right, of the value of that. And you're able to get it. It's a second separate loan. Oftentimes it's interest only for 10 years, maybe less, where you just pay interest only on the debt. And then there's like a 20-year to pay it back fully amortized, right? So the goal is to be able to leverage that in that time frame, right? 5 to 10 years is interest only, to use it, pay it off, use it, pay it off. And then you can either get another one after it's done, or refi out of it for another one and use it again. And so it's an avenue to be able to tap into the equity while keeping your first mortgage in place, as a separate loan as well.
Exactly. So I think that's a huge point, is when you're investing, of course, looking for cash flow is key. But if you can invest in areas also where population is coming in and appreciation rises for a property, then you have those options where like now your equity has increased and you can leverage these loans like HELOCs, so that it's actually no money out of your own pocket, but against the assets that you've already built. And that 6 unit, this was in the Orlando area, or also by, I think you said Palm.
And Palm Bay. So no, this one was in Tallahassee. This was North Florida. Um, I got a call from a broker, and he said, "Hey, I'm calling to see if you have any thoughts on this deal." I'm like, "What deal? Like, what are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, I sent you a deal." And I get so many emails now that I just, delete, spam, delete. So I don't even look at them anymore, because I know it's oftentimes going to be a junk deal. But this one was actually a good deal that I happened to just pass over, in my email. So I looked at it, I underwrote it. I'm like, oh wow, this is actually in a good area. Rents are below market. There's a Whole Foods down the street. I'm like, yeah, I have to, if I see a Whole Foods, guys, a Chick-fil-A, guys, a Starbucks, I'm gonna look a little bit closer, kind of see if this makes sense. And so I dove into it, and I made it happen.
First off, I love that you got the deal through like a broker. So you've been building this network continuously where you're getting deals come into your inbox from both property managers as well as brokers. And I think that's the key for those maybe getting started into real estate. Like, try to build your network. Do you have any advice for someone just starting out in a different state? Like, how do they start to build their network from the ground up?
Yeah. And I would say it's probably the most important thing that I've done is to build a network. Yeah, just go online and find different groups that are meeting, right? So Facebook is a good place to find them, right? But see who's being around in your area and join. And not only join, but be active, right? So see how you can help and be in the circle, be involved, have people know who you are. Because I realized by being a face of a meetup or being active in the meetup, people know who you are, and they tend to give you that power of, you know what, you are someone, like you have a say in all this, like you are in a business per se. And so being active in the different groups, and most cities have a group. If they don't have one, hey, start one, right? Because your people around you are going to be the most important thing and for you in this business than just the knowledge. Cause I can go online and look all this up myself, but it's not the same when I can say, hey, how did you do this exactly? How did you get around this problem? Because it's some things that are being done that's not on a Facebook group or on bigger podcasts, because everyone has a different approach, a different way to approach certain things in a different aspect that you might not know about unless you talk to them and kind of say, hey, I have this issue. How did you do that? I'm like, oh yeah, I had a similar issue. Here's how I went about it. I'm like, oh, I didn't think about this in this way. Like I could try that. Right. So being around that mindset set of people is very, very key and crucial to your to you in this business having wins over time, right? So
when it comes to gaining knowledge, like you can do some of the high level stuff, right? Like how do I list my property for rent? What do I do if someone doesn't pay me on time? But what happens if someone asks like, oh, do you take Section 8? And if so, like, what are like, what other documents do I need to sign, blah, 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 or like one, of a couple, one person applies, the other doesn't. They want to give like cash 3 months up front. Should you still accept them? Like these are all things that happen that may not be in the blogs, in the forums, but if you have that network, it could really help to answer.
and funny enough, there was, I got that question, by the way, do you take Section 8? And then before I would say, it depends, right? I might say no, but, someone said, hey, you cannot turn somebody down based on certain things, right? And so you have to accept everyone as they come based on their statute, which I didn't know that in the beginning. But there was a person, that would go around, I think it was a lawyer, that would ask landlords these questions to kind of see how you responded. And you wouldn't know that they're a lawyer, right? And so if you don't know these things, you might be like, no, I don't want this person that has this status, right? But you can't say certain things to people because of different laws. And so there's a lot that you need to know by being around people who are more seasoned. And so it's very key to get involved in your area as soon as possible.
That's actually pretty shocking. I never heard that one before, but also local laws. How important is that? Like, for example, in most states, you can get the criminal history of a tenant. In New York, you cannot. That's illegal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all these little intricacies of having that local group really helps. So if you were looking back, Bernadeau, on your journey and, giving yourself advice as you were starting along the way, what are some things that maybe you would have changed or you would have told yourself, maybe try doing this in a different way?
Good question. Well, I wish I would have went back in time and started like a lot sooner than I did. I feel like I was late in the game, even though I'm still kind of young, but I feel late to the game. But as far as advice that I would tell myself, I don't know. I think it would be just to, take your time and not rush, right? Because, a lot of times as investors, you tend to want to compare to other people, right? To say, oh, I want to be able to get to this point right now because of this person, right? But everyone has a different journey. And so taking your time and going slow can get you there faster because you learn more and you're able to react and really play more defense than offense. And so I've been able to take my time to learn a business, to be able to pivot, play more defense, get these skills to be able to scale faster, even though it seems I'm going slower, but I'm really just, not rushing the process per se, right? Enjoying the process and enjoying being in the now of this deal and then not that deal and really just absorbing the information and the experience as well and not trying to get to the end point as soon as possible.
I like that approach a lot. And that's one of the things I'm a big proponent on is if you, are under contract for a deal, excellent. But if you're starting out, finish that process, close on the deal, get a tenant in, have that first month or two where they're going to be probably asking for a lot of questions or maintenance requests. Then, go for it and look for other deals. But I see a lot of folks initially when they get started, they do a lot in the beginning and then they're almost like throw their hands up like, wow, like now I'm under this ball of stress. This is too much. I'm not sure if real estate is for me. So great piece of advice that you had.
Yeah, and something always goes wrong when there's a new tenant that moves in. There was always a call, guys. Within the first 2 weeks, there's gonna be a call. Something has gone wrong, right? It could be small, minor, but I realize there's always gonna be an issue when they first move in. You just solve it and you just move on, right? So
yeah, it's almost like they're almost testing to see like how fast you would respond. But I know it's not that. There's always something small that they may notice being there first.
Yeah.
So what do you see yourself for the next maybe 3 years in terms of how you want to grow your portfolio or maybe even your meetup as well?
I see myself still acquiring, more deals, buying more multifamily. Now I've branched into more apartments and syndications as well. So buying larger apartment complexes. I've done a few so far. So I'm looking to grow more in that space as well, be more of an operator. But I still keep buying these smaller long-term holds, in parallel. As far as the meetup, it's getting bigger. And we're now actually doing a second chapter in Orlando. That's more on the north side of town. So trying to grow and get more people connected in different areas of the town and really just have that group that helped me a lot. Cause, I didn't know anything in the beginning, but now I feel more comfortable. I've learned so much in these last 5+ years by being active in the meetup. And so now I'm seeing other people as well who, just like me, showed up, knew nothing, and now boom, first deal, first wholesale, first flip, right? And so just by being active in the space and coming every month, asking questions, interacting with people. And so it really makes me happy that I'll be able to, create the space for people to grow and learn. And I want to kind of see that grow over time as well. So.
Yeah, congrats on opening a new chapter. Super exciting that you're looking to expand your portfolio more. We may have to have you back for a live stream of going through a multifamily deal since we haven't done that yet. Or for those that want to follow your journey and possibly also in the local area and want to join the meetup, how would they do so?
So I'm active on Instagram a lot. So it's Bernadeau_buys_rentals. So if you go in there, you find me, send me a DM, get active. If you're in the area, come and join me. I have meetups every month, multifamily mixers, regular meetups, different topics. Also, I started like a mastermind group as well. So if you want to get involved and join the mastermind group that I'm starting to be able to go over deals on a regular basis every week, talk about deals, how to avoid certain things, tenant management, how to manage property managers. So all these things now I'm able to kind of grow a community of people to really go and build that connection with them and go over things on a regular basis with them. And it's going to be my next venture as well in this business.
So much knowledge that you're willing to share. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Bernadeau, for your time and looking forward to following you with your journey.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.